I'm standing in front of the World War II Memorial. It is flanked by the Washington Monument to the east and the Lincoln Memorial to the west. It is fenced in by 56 granite columns representing the 48 states of 1945, 7 federal territories, and the District of Columbia. In the middle is the rainbow pool, symbolizing the wartime unity among the states. There's also a wall known as the Freedom Wall, with over 4,000 gold stars, each star representing the 100 men who died, totaling to over 400,000 American lives. There are 2 43-foot tall pavilions, one representing the American victory over the Atlantic Front and the other representing the American victory over the Pacific Front. This memorial was completed in 2004 to honor the 16 million men and women who served in the armed forces of the United States in World War II. And nearby there's also the Korean War Veterans Memorial, and on the other side the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. And I love these memorials because it is a reminder that America has a greater responsibility than just taking care of our own. Now, I've often heard people say things like, why is it that we always have to stick our nose where it doesn't belong? Or why is it that we get involved in wars that are not a clear threat to our own security? The reason we get involved is because our nation is undergirded by certain biblical values. Values like love your neighbor as yourself, seek justice, rebuke the oppressor, defend the fatherless, and plead for the widow. Values like righteousness exalts a nation. We have an obligation that as the leader of the free world that we have to stand up for those who don't have a voice, to help those in need, and to protect the innocent. Twice in our history, America stepped in to save the world. The first was the Nazi threat, and the second was the Soviet communists. In both situations, our nation not only fought against the oppressor, but also helped to rebuild the nations who were hurting. We helped to rebuild Germany, and then Japan, and even Russia. And even in recent years, we have seen other nations holding free elections for the first time in decades. This does not mean that all their problems are gone, but it just means that America did what was right. I often find it ironic when America is criticized for her foreign policy and then condemned for not responding quick enough, not being there for some human rights violation or some natural disaster. Sometimes even those who criticize our nation secretly look for the red, white, and blue so that we would come and help them in famine and flood or against some invading army. You see, ultimately, America doesn't have to answer to critics, but to the all-knowing and all-seeing God. We have to stand for what is right. I'm standing in front of the Holocaust Museum. It opened its doors in 1993. It has a collection of more than 12,750 artifacts, 49 million pages of archival documents, and 80,000 historical photographs, and many other things. A few years ago, Nicole and I brought our children here to this museum. And as we walked through the rooms and saw the photographs of men, women, and children, it was very hard to describe the emotions we felt. We didn't know these people, but somehow we began to feel their pain. Somehow we felt that we should have been there to help them. How could people do this? How could they kill their fellow men? A few months ago, we even went to the second most visited site in Israel, the Yad Vashem Memorial to the Holocaust victims in Jerusalem. It was very hard going through this museum as well. But the really hard part for us was the Children's Memorial. It is a glass room that is only lit by over 1 million stars, representing the 1.6 million children who were killed. As you walk through the room, you hear the names of the children and their ages. 4 years, 8 years, 13 years old. I'm proud to be an American, because if we hadn't stepped into World War II, I'm not sure how many more Jewish people would have died. There's an old statement. It says, "To whom much is given, from him much will be required." You know, those are actually the words of Jesus found in Luke 12:48. It doesn't mean you enable people who are lazy or constantly give out money. It means helping those who are helpless. And let me also add, in our world today where anti-Semitism has raised its ugly head again, we need to stand with Israel because God is standing with them.